All right. So the way my wife shops and the way I do, very different. Neither right nor wrong. That being said, one of the things I think that's so compelling about Aurora and the demonstration of what we've already spun up is the way that, and I'm going to speak to this, and I'm making an assumption that we're talking to an audience that maybe is not as technical as nerds like me, right? Or nerds like Steve. That's a compliment, Steve, obviously, versus super cool people like you, Tati, who definitely don't spend a lot of time in the engineering world, and I understand why. It's all good. But like what I think is so interesting is my wife loves to cook. And if there's any way that I could translate very simply what I just said to a brand, and then that brand could better understand and calibrate how to work with me, not just based off the profile of my wife, who I love to buy anything cooking related because I love that she invests in her craft, but simultaneously, it also needs to talk to me a little bit less about like, oh, what about this, that, and the other thing, and like, have you thought about this and that? Because then I shut down. I'm like, that's too much. I can't think about this. But if you just are very prescriptive with me and like, hey, there are three options, two of which you looked at previously. We've got a new, item or whatever that's complementary to this. Which one would you like to pick? I'll just make a decision, right? And then like, oh, and then we'll mail it to you, right? Because you like that. You don't want to go to the store and pick it up, right? Right. Great. Versus some other communication styles that other people have, my wife included. And so what I want to do is pass this setup, which is meandering, to you, Tati, as the person who really thinks about this from, I think, a very holistic way, which is what are the implications of what I just said for one-to-one hyper personalization at scale for retailers now that you know what's possible now with all this wonderful LangChain enabled and otherwise modular technology. I'd love to hear you kind of riff on that a little bit before we get into any additional demos, because we'll get to that.
Yeah, and the first thing I will say is that what you just mentioned, the uniqueness of the way you shop and the way she shop, that's not unusual. We have so many different ways in which people are shopping. It's always been the case. Now this is obviously much more visible to all of us as we all shop in different ways. So there has to be the retailer, the sales organization, and when I say retailer, I'm talking about overall any type of sales organization that's dealing directly with customers. They have to adapt to that. And the adaptation to that up to now was, as I call it, analog, right? You're looking through process, you're looking through customer experience, you're looking through training. All of these things are still true because you have to have the right process, you have to have the right people, you have to have the right thesis behind it, the right hypothesis behind what you're doing. However, what this technology does, which is what makes me so excited about it, is that this standardizes. This creates you're taking this incredibly smart brain that not only knows all of these different things, but remembers all of these different things for later. And you standardize that experience however you want. So, the demo we did the other day, and we're going to do another one to talk about, key problems. The last one was around the objections that someone will have around a purchase. The next one is around returns and how do you turn a return into an exchange in a seamless way, or at the very least make that return very easy to create, to build loyalty, to build that, which again, not to go back to your experience, but 5 months and counting in dealing with
It's
this.
crazy.
But not only that, you don't have this the baseline of what we've been trying to do for so long. So many companies have been trying to move from a salesperson or a sales bot, whatever it is, to an advisor. How do you do that? How do you move to the advisor? And the only way to do that is by standardizing that experience in a way it's impossible for them to miss it because your agent is not going to miss that point. Your agent is going to remember what you did last time because it's there, it's in the big brain. It's going to come back up. It's not going to forget that you were looking at an ice cream machine for your wife and that you didn't buy it 6 months ago. But guess what? This could be the perfect add-on gift for what we're doing right now. It's also going to know that what you bought and the accessories that came now that are available for that. And all of those things, you can teach humans to do that, absolutely. And that's what we've been doing all along. And we've been trying to combine technology. But what the technology is doing today is taking this part and saying, all right, you don't need a human to do this initial part. Where you need the humans is supporting that brain, is driving that interaction, is being that expert that is partnering, if you will, to build the brain in a way that is effective, that it truly adds value, and it turns your channel interaction from selling to advising.
Yeah, I'm gonna jump in and say so. I'm not gonna name the brand because I always promise I won't do that. But the experience we're talking about is a very substantial cooking brand because my wife is such a phenomenal cook, and she's just amazing at it. But the thing is, that brand has lost the permission to engage me, frankly, in any way, shape, or form outside of you got to process the thing that's hanging up in the air right now, which is this return. And I know that Steve, when we do the demo, and we've already seen it, is that if they just did what Steve has spun up in a very short period of time, not only would they get the permission back, but then they could spin up another dimension of their data infrastructure and front end to say, hey, Alec, I see you like to buy this, that, and the other thing. Are you the person cooking, or what's the deal? Right. And I would jump all over that, especially if it was an AI interface where I could simply say, no, actually, it's my rock star wife and she's all about it. And then it could start asking me, interrogate me around her, cooking habits and our, kit in the kitchen and this, that, and the other thing. I would love nothing more than for that relationship to maintain memory, right? So the memory and the context, I don't want to think about these things. And I would love when you make recommendations for whether it's a new cookbook or a new pasta maker or anything along those lines, just don't make any recommendation on shellfish because I'm allergic and God forbid we have any of that, right? So it's like those are the dimensions where I think the ability to harness modern data infrastructure in a modular way and then enable hyper personalized one-to-one data enabled context enabled experiences where I don't have to keep telling you about my shellfish allergy. Like it's not. Yeah. It reminds me of Tati of the New York right where you know what I'm talking about, right? It's like. Yeah, it's like, I mean, oh my gosh, how many times? Like, don't you have a photographic memory robot? So, Steve, I'm sure you want to jump in. You please do.
Yeah, no, that hyper personalized experience is the holy grail, but it's achievable today, right? The tech can understand your identity, right? Whether or not that's if you're logged into the system or you call in, it knows your number, and then once it knows who you are, it can kind of sync back into the brain or the database to pull information about your previous purchases, your previous shopping experience. And the whole structure can be curated, right, for the retailer or the product company to basically ask certain questions and think of it like a decision tree too, right? If responses are given back, then it can send you down a different path and then push information to using the AI voice agent to the consumer, whether or not that's based off of information from about your personalized previous shopping experience from the brain, or a new product or a new deal or some sort of loyalty or rewards program. So it's smart enough to do that. The capabilities are there. I think the other really interesting thing that the tech can do is understand based on your identity and talk to you based on your personality, and then also understand kind of sentiment and mood of the conversation. So New Yorkers are New Yorkers. They're gonna,
yes, we are.
Yeah, and they're gonna want to get stuff done. Whereas other cities, other places, right, other certain individual personality types, think like Myers-Briggs or those types of things. If you know the personality type, then you can speak to that person, and that really gets into a really personalized experience around that voice agent, which live, having a conversation with a live person can do. You can do that all the time. If you know somebody is frustrated and they want to get the return in and just get on their way, then you can have that conversation real time. The AI can do that too, right? It can understand mood, it can understand sentiment, it can bank your personality and then speak to you based off that. So it's very powerful in that, and it really does get to that hyper personalized experience.
I love it. All right, we're going to leave it there because we're going to shut this one down so that folks can, consume this stuff in bite-sized formats. But we're going to come back and we're going to do a demo that kind of brings to life some of this calibration and makes it real. So nicely done, Steve and Tati. We'll go to the next one.
Thanks.